For as long as there have been Americans, there have been American travelers in Jerusalem. Pilgrims following the story of the gospel and adventurers on the path of history. Among them, my great-great-grandparents, Louis and Caddy Burley. They left their home in Augusta, Maine, and set sail for the Middle East in 1925, recording their journey in this photo album, 100 years old but only recently rediscovered by our family.
The title page says, "The doings of the intrepid adventurers who boldly snapshotted and postcarded their way through foreign lands."
For me, the discovery was stunning.
We've heard gunfire. It seems like somebody has come in.
I spent 3 years as a Middle East correspondent for NBC News, not knowing I was walking in the footsteps of family. Exactly a century later, I retraced their journey, following notes written by my great-great-grandfather.
They entered Jerusalem right here through the famous Jaffa Gate of the Old City. And according to him, they spent the next 3 days being led around by tour guides with a scanty assortment of broken English, a fair bit of really valuable information, and a marvelous collection of preposterous lies.
The alleys of the Old City then and now bustling with merchants. The ancient streets inspiring Louis to write,
"Nowhere else in the world has so much of history flowed through so small an area as in that little country of Palestine, as it was known then, on the eastern shore of the Mediterranean, about the size of Vermont." Honestly, that's something I could have written today.
They followed the Stations of the Cross to the calm of the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus is said to have prayed before his crucifixion. As I walked through the sacred spot, the exact same tree photographed by my great-great-grandfather, remarkably unchanged. And 100 years on, the Western Wall still a site of fervent prayer.
This has always been a place of deep emotion, which is why it's sometimes known as the Wailing Wall. My great-great-grandfather wrote he saw some Jewish worshippers actually weeping here.
But the ugly modern politics of the Holy Land would be unrecognizable to them. Their trip was before the founding of Israel, when Jews and Arabs still lived in relative peace, and tourists could freely visit the Al-Aqsa Mosque, known to Israelis as the Temple Mount.
It's the third holiest site in Islam, and it is the holiest site for Jews, and it is at the absolute center of the conflict here. The politics of this have gotten so complicated over the last 100 years that today, as a non-Muslim, this is as far as I can go.
In the late 1800s, a family of Christians from Chicago founded the American Colony. Today, it's one of the most famous hotels in the world. But when Louis and Caddy visited in 1925, it was still a religious commune and a social hub for soldiers, spies, and statesmen. Jeremy Berkovitz is the owner's representative and the hotel's unofficial historian.
This was the place where you came. So for your great-great-father to make a detour to come here in those years, say from 1915 to 1930, you would not have missed the opportunity to come because it was a really interesting place.
Was the atmosphere here the roaring 20s and drink and dance, or was it quite...
No, absolutely, that's right. There was parties. But within the Christian ethic. Right. I mean, I'm not sure how much alcohol they had. It was more garden parties and fine dresses.
Louis described colony residents as practical Christians who ate and worshiped together.
I think practical Christians is a very good way of putting it. The underlying reason they did it was because they thought Jesus was going to come in around 1896.
So they believed the Messiah was coming in 25 years' time or so.
A century on, Jerusalem's wait for the Messiah continues, and so does its powerful draw for travelers from the U.S. and around the world.
A lot has changed here in the last 100 years. A lot hasn't, but it is amazing to think that my great-great-grandparents found this place as special as I do.
Raf Sanchez, NBC News, Jerusalem.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.